Hi, everyone. We're back for another episode of the Daily BizLink. And today, Jane Cebrynski is joining us for a conversation on energy management. Jane, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Lindsay. Good morning. Happy mid-May.
Can you believe we're already in the middle of May?
I know. I told you at one point, I said, this is going to go by faster than we think. And as far as I'm concerned, April didn't even exist. We went from March to May. It's crazy.
Absolutely. And now we're getting ready to enter another interesting time. So, a lot of individuals, a lot of businesses are starting to head back to the office. And
Yeah.
so, as we were talking, energy management probably will play a huge factor in that.
Yeah. Another season of change and transition. So with that, there's always all kinds of energy components to that. Yeah, the conversations that I've been having with a lot of my clients lately and what the coaching has been around, it has been energy management because some have already gone back to work. Some are getting ready to go back in the next couple of days. And then, for some, it's still looming. But the conversations around energy management, again, oftentimes we think time is our most precious resource, but we now know energy is actually our most precious resource. And there's 5 types of energy. Most of the time we think just in terms of physical energy, and I think that's what a lot of people are feeling. But we've got the physical energy. That includes the nutrition, diet, exercise, sleep, which you were saying you're lacking. And there's also mental energy, which includes our ability to focus, concentrate, where our decision-making skills lie. There's social energy, which is not just, interaction with others and friendship, but that also includes respect and I'm going to say no judgment, non-judgment as much as possible, and trust. Then there is emotional energy, which can be the bus that drives everything. And that includes, from our ability to show self-control, compassion, self-compassion right now. And then spiritual energy, which isn't necessarily tied to religion, but to our core values and purpose. And, high performers know that all 5 sources of energy are required for real full engagement. And one can absolutely influence the other. So they all work together. And the question really has been for a lot of my clients, okay, where am I getting depleted? And how do I raise my stat, if you will, around those different energy sources? And developing winning strategies to do that. And last week we had that conversation about rituals and routines, and that's super imperative right now to either get back into some of them. So I had one client who went back and we talked about kind of being in preseason. She's like, how could I be so tired when I feel like I've had all this time off? Well, it's that engagement that's different now. Whether it's the commute to work that is now exists, that didn't exist before, whether it's the mental focus that has, shifted, whether it's a lack of sleep in general, but it's really that we're engaged differently now when we come back into the workforce. What do you think? How do you feel about just what's happening with you and what you're hearing from some of your friends going back?
Yeah, I think at first we're like, oh, this is only temporary, right? And so we've adapted to these new rituals and routines. But over a long period of time, I think the inability to choose how we want to spend our energy
Yes.
has impacted us. And people get energy off of out of different things. I know for me, the social element is one thing that I really miss, and I get more energy off of social interaction. So not having the ability to see my friends or host events, get out there in the community. I do struggle with that because that's something that was definitely a part of my daily rituals and routines. And I feel like I'm giving more energy by hosting Zoom calls because it's not the same to me as it is, those face-to-face interactions.
Yeah, that's a performance barrier for me that creates a lot of frustration. Well, what's super important about what you said there that it has been on my mind and what I am hearing from not only my clients, but from other people is number one, that emotional energy, right? So some people may be coming back to work with that first day of school giddiness. They are so excited. They're wearing their best outfit. They can't wait. They've packed their lunch. They've got their Snoopy lunch pail. They just can't wait to get there. And then there's other people that still have a lot of trepidation. Is the virus lingering? Am I more at risk? And so you can have this kind of diverse attitudes, if you will, around going back. And that's where I think it's that's why I included in there, no judgment around some of the energy sources, because there is a lot of that can be taking place depending on what your beliefs are. And we've had that conversation. But what's super important too is, every thought and every action takes energy, and it can have a consequence for better or for worse. And when we really start to become intentional with how all of our energy sources are being used, again, this is for full engagement. This is for optimum performance. I mean, high achievers know they need a balance of all of it. So, it's not about driving in one particular source. The others are going to suffer as a result. And so how do we get a balance of them? And if you think about every thought and every action has a consequence, I just think about how much energy is being spent on just talking about the pandemic, talking about the virus. And so it's really an opportunity to go, okay, do I really want to be talking about this anymore? Or how much time do I want to give the conversation? Do I want to see everyone and have this be the focus of my conversations? Because that takes up energy, and it could deplete you, because it could cause anxiety. It could cause more stress. It could cause frustration if you have different points of view from somebody else. So how do we honor that? And how do we honor that everybody's coming back possibly differently? Some people may be coming back with a renewed sense of purpose. Some may be coming back with a new purpose or a different perspective, and so that's what a lot of the coaching I've been doing has been around. Okay, what are the performance barriers? What's been getting in the way of you being able to optimally perform? And of course, the Zoom happy hours are the number one thing showing up. Like, okay, I've got to cut some of these out. I can't do this anymore. Our ability to sustain these happy hours is starting to wane, I think. And that's, for some people, those are some of the changes they're making, but really becoming mindful of all 5 sources of energy and figuring out, okay, where do I feel a little depleted? And we talked about rest and recovery. That's a super, super important part of the renewal process, taking a little bit of time to rest and recover. We also coach in joy breaks, which you and I've talked about. Those are just little 3 to 5 minute breaks you take throughout the day. And so many people just don't really give themselves permission to do this. I didn't say 35 minutes. I said 3 to 5 minutes. And the purpose of that is, listen, it helps to re-stimulate creativity. It gives us a little bit of a break. It allows us to, renew our focus. And if we are struggling to focus, it gives us something to look forward to say, okay, I'm going to concentrate on this for the next 60 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever your ability to focus is right now. And then I'm going to take a little joy break. And it gives you that ability to, check a text or reach out to somebody.
Many of us are entering this new phase of change in our lives. And I'm curious, do you have like a little pep talk that you would encourage individuals to give themselves, especially as it relates to energy management?
Okay, so it's funny that you would mention this, because I was just thinking about this morning. And I also teach yoga. So for me, the first thing I'm thinking is breathe. Because when we become really intentional with our breath, not only does it calm anxiety, it gives us also a moment to not react when what we want to do is respond. It gives us the ability to get out of our head when maybe that's what we need to do. It gives us the ability to recenter and focus. So I would say be really mindful of your breath. And that means really paying attention to taking it in and letting it out.
So what would you like to challenge individuals to do over the next week?
Well, I would look at those 5 sources. So physical, what's my diet, what's my sleep been like, exercise. And even if you can only get a 20-minute walk, in the day, or maybe you trade your lunch hour for a walk around the park, or you eat it while you're walking, some things like that. So I would just challenge everybody to take a look at, okay, social energy, how am I interacting with others? Is it with a lot of judgment? How can I focus on me and what matters to me? The spiritual energy, again, what is my purpose? What's driving me? And also emotional energy. So remembering that every thought has a consequence. And so really challenging us to become more aware and then be more intentional. So start with that level of awareness and start to notice it, and then become more intentional, and then anchor in like, okay, what are some winning strategies for me? What will help me? Do I need to meditate? Do I need to breathe? Do I need to call a friend? Do I need to turn off the news? What do I need to do so that we're managing our energy so that we can optimally perform?
I think we could all stand to do a little work in this space. So hopefully Jane has inspired each and every one of you to think through what you can be doing a little bit differently as we navigate this new change of life and this new season as we enter going back to the office and whatnot. So Jane, thanks again for being here for today's conversation on energy management.
Thank you. I want to share one thing, Lindsay, before we go, because we coach in stats, and 1 being low, 10 being high. We talk about our 10 moments. We didn't do a 10 moment today, but we talk about the importance of 10s to live a 10 life. And so there is actually a book out there called The Power of Moments. But what I really want to challenge everyone to do is I want you to think about, if you are a leader, how do you make it a 10 moment for your employees, for your people coming back? So what can you do to make that moment coming back into the office a 10 moment? And then if you are going back, how do you make it a 10 moment for you? Is it, your Snoopy lunch pail? Is it what you wear? Is it a change in mindset? Is it getting some new thinking? Maybe it's some gratitude. So I want you to think about, how do you make this moment a 10 moment for you? But then I also want to think about the people who might be still at home as you transition, because this affects them too. So maybe you have kids that have loved having you home and now you're going to be away from them. How do you make it a 10 moment for them? I don't know, maybe it's a special breakfast or the promise of a great dinner when you come home, or I don't know what it is for you, but really asking yourself, okay, how do I make this a 10 moment for my kids? How do I make it a 10 moment for the dog who might not be used to you being out of the house? So really being intentional with, okay, how do I make this a 10 moment all the way around? That would be my real challenge.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Jane. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Lindsay. Bye.